Welcome to a blustery Shipp's Tips number 22. Now it is a windy day and there's no better, I think, no better conditions than fishing the short pole, and that's what we're going to be doing today. One of the baits I'm going to be concentrating on is corn, and when the conditions are like this, you want a heavy bait. It goes down to the bottom. I know it's going to be towing. I've already plumbed up, and luckily it is actually going against the wind. So what I mean by that is the wind's blowing that way, but the float is trying to inch through the opposite way, which does help a little bit. So we're at Larford on the Specimen Lake. We all know this venue. There's lots of bream, lots of skimmers, but there is also a lot of carp, and they are big. So I'm not going to be messing about with elastics and lines and hooks, and I can't wait to get going because I love it. I think probably, we will have to attack it today because of the conditions. It's gone a little bit colder the last couple of weeks, and it's windy. It's stirring the bottom up, and I'm hoping we're going to catch a real good net of fish. Let's get back to the gear, run you through everything, and fingers crossed we'll have a mega day's fishing here at Larford Lakes. Well, that's 2 tins of corn I've got out, and that is the lovely thing about fishing with sweet corn, is you can be really, really positive. Now, I'm going to kick the peg off with a nice big handful of corn. We are on a big lake today, and there's lots of bream in there, there's lots of carp as well. And with the conditions, it's windy, it's a little bit cooler, I think we can be really positive. And it doesn't matter what venue you go on, corn can be massive, especially when you go to a venue and you're getting lots of foul look fish. Corn is heavy, it goes down, nothing really comes off of it, and it just stops foul looking. And obviously that's really important, especially when you're a match angler. So let's get this out and I'll run you through the rig that I'm using and where I've actually fished. And you can probably see from that, I'm actually fishing a top kit and 3 sections. So let's get that in. I found a nice little flat area there when I plumbed up. One thing on a big lake like Larford, on the Specimen Lake, when we are talking bream, there's a lot of bream in here, and they are really important, especially when you're a match angler like I am. You can catch huge weights of skimmers and bream on here, and you might have to fish for them until the carp rock up. That's why I've gone out in a top kit and 3. On a lot of venues you go to, you might want to bring that out, bring it in on a top kit in 1, or even some venues a top kit. It just depends on how many carp, the size of carp. I sort of know with the Specimen Lake, they probably take a little bit of time to come in. So we'll be fishing for bream and skimmers. Hopefully the carp will come in a little bit sooner because of the conditions. It's windy, bit cooler, and I think it gives them the confidence to come in. Rig wise, I'm not messing around. We are on the Specimen Lake. It's named the Specimen Lake for one reason. There's big carp in here. I've got 17 Jura. It's not overgunned because hopefully we'll be catching some decent skimmers and bream on the way. I've got 021 reflow power mainline. I've got a Carp XS in a 4B16. They are superb floats, especially in conditions like this, because they've got a nice thick bristle that you can see. Simple setup, little bolt there, like that, probably like what I've got on there. 7 number 9s. And I've got 2 number 10 droppers, a 15 centimetre hook length of 019 to a 14 XS02 hook. So it's all set up nice. I don't really want to go any lower because if we do latch into some of the big carp in here, you're going to need that to get them out. I've opted for about 5 to 5.5 foot of water. And I thought when I plumbed up, if I go any further, it just drops off. And I think the lovely thing is when the carp do come on this line, it can be hectic. You can catch some of the biggest carp in the lake. If you're a match angler like me, you might, at the end of the day, you might have had like a big weight of bream and skimmers, the odd carp during the day, and then the carp rock up properly. That's when you can go through a lot of corn. When you come to a venue like this, there's no bait rules on corn. Believe you me, you can go through a lot of it. You can be really positive. So let's get out there, put a nice chunky bit of F1 corn on, sits in there absolutely perfect on that 14. I've got a cab pot on there at the moment. Whether that's going to play ball, I'm not too sure. And the first thing I actually done is I've dropped my rig in before we started, and it's actually trying to push away, well, against the wind, which is lovely. So I've put that sort of big pot of corn, well, not a big pot, a big handful of corn in. And let's just be nice and patient. I've put a little bit more line on the bottom than normal because of the conditions. There's a bite straight away then. That might have been a roach. And I'll be looking for all these sort of signs, you know, how much I'm going to feed. If I do get bream problems, a bream, you might have to feed, you know, quite a lot. Some days it can be different. Some days you want to just put in like 10, 15 pieces. Other days you might have to like big pot it. Depends on how the day goes really. And then we'll talk about that as it goes along. So I've got all my other pole out behind me up to 16 metres, because if we do catch a big carp, obviously it might tear off and you might have to put the sections on. So I've got a nice short line, even though it's windy. I've probably got about 16 inches of line between my float and my pole. There we go, there's a little bite, little fish, little roach. At least you've had a bite, that's the main thing. Everything eats corn. And when you go into a mixed venue, those silvers can make a huge difference at the end weight, especially when you're a match angler. I'm just dropping that straight down like that. There's going to be no bubbles there because I know it's rock hard bottom. It's not until I go out further on this lake that it's going to be on the silt. But it's easy to fish as well. When you're fishing a top kitten 3, a top kitten 2, it's so easy to fish. It's easy to bring it back when you start missing a few bites. And hopefully we'll get some decent fish move in as we go along. Just picking out a nice big chunky bit of corn. Always like those nice sort of square cut pieces. I'm trying to keep everything on the bottom, and that's what is good about sweet corn, is there's nothing comes off of it as such. It's not like ground bait, you know, where you get lots of particles. It goes down, it's dead on the bottom, and I think it just eliminates a lot of foul look fish. Oh, hello. What's that? That's a skimmer, I think. And I'll get into it sometimes with a bit of corn on as well, especially when you're fishing the long pole. You can hook it like I'm hooking it. Look at that. Superb. Honestly, when you can get these on corn, you can get one every chuck. But with bream, as we all know, you have got to feed a lot of it. Look at the condition of them. You can tell it's that time of year now where they've all started getting better. They've had the spawning's gone. And they'll be feeding, especially in these conditions as well. If I was actually here in a match, they would be definitely part of my plan of action to catch them. So I'm not going to feed again. This is what I'm going to try and work out now, is how often I've got to put bait in. I think it's going to be a day. If I was here in a match, I'd be thinking, I don't really want to throw bait there because I don't want to get the wrong fish in my peg. So if you start making loads of noise, you might get too many roach. I want to sort of be quite positive with the big pot and try and catch quality. So it's nice to get a few bites straight away. And you can just see that that's just starting to back up against the wind, which is lovely because I can keep my line sort of over top the float. There's a little indication then. Never know what that is. It can be, you know, it looks like a little roach bite, but it could have been a bream. I don't think it was a carp. I think when the carp come in, it will be proper good, but you never know. If the tow was going the same way as the wind, I would have put probably a little bit more line on the bottom. I'm fishing with the body about 2 inches out of the water at the moment, where if the tow was going the same way as the wind, I'd probably have up to like even a float length over depth with a little fish. So I'm not going to mess about. I'm going to put another handful of corn in. Little hybrid. to get your big pot. So I'm not going to overgun it at the moment. Got my little marker on the opposite bank. Drop that straight down. Nice thing is, it's being positive. I love that sort of fishing. And that's the nice thing about going to a venue with Bream and skimmers in. It always feels like the actual bait is being ate. And it gives you the confidence of actually topping up really positive. Later in the session, if the carp move in properly, I might use the big cab pot to just literally fill it up, go in. But at the moment, I think with those, if there's bream and that are about, I think the big pot is probably the best option. I'm just holding that. Use the line like a bit of a sail. Because it is backing up, you can just hold the pole over top your float and the line creates like a little sail like that, and it will just hold it against the toe. If it was the opposite way round, you'd have to have the pole down behind the float to hold it. It's a lot harder when the flow or the toe is going with the wind. A lot harder to get good presentation. Luckily for us today, it is backing up. It's absolutely lovely. It's lovely conditions, that. Very, very windy. You struggled to fish long pole today. Ooh. I just struck at that, and that was a liner, I think. It was a foul up fish. That was my own fault. A dear little indication. It definitely wasn't a carp. Look at that, lovely bit of corn, that. I love them square bits like that. I do go to venues there where you've got to use these little tiny bits, the little tiny bits that are in the pot like that. It makes a huge difference. Doesn't matter whether you're catching the carp or the bream. So I'm fishing just before it sort of goes down a bit of a shelf there. If I put another joint on, I probably have about another foot of water. Oh, that was a good bite. Nice thing as well is corn, you hook it like I do, and it stays on and you're straight back in instead of shipping back and putting another piece on. There we go. That's what I mean, same bite, quality skimmer or bream. A little bit fierce, that 17 for them, but you haven't got a lot of choice really on these lakes with the big fish, because when they do move in them, you could have two rigs set up, but I would never go really any lower than like 0.15 power line. Does it make any difference with the line? Not too sure. I don't think it was. It's got a lovely bit of colour in this lake. Look at the condition of them. Absolutely beautiful. Make sure you've got your towel because they are slimy. Make sure you get all that snot off. Let's get another chunky bit of corn again. Just drop that in. Just fold it over. And that was slightly to the right then of where I'll put my bait in. There you go, tiny bite that. Oi, look at that. Now if Jake's got that on camera, fair play. Did you get it on your camera, Jake? It's a lovely bream, that. You just imagine the weight you can do of these, and then the carp rock up. That's what's so lovely about big lakes like Larford. That's nearly £3, that one. So what am I thinking now? Do I put another pot in? Won't be far. Won't be long, I'll let you know. That is definite. I will be really positive today. I'm just going to see if I can get one more. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. Trying to think, oh, shall I put 10 grains in? I think, to be honest, with these sort of fish feeding, I think it's an absolute waste of time. Let's see if we can get one more. That was a really fast little dink as well, that. If it was really hard fishing, if it wasn't really happening, I would actually start throwing. Because a little bit of noise, you know, you're making a bit of an area. But when the fishing, when you think with the conditions we got today, it's a bit overcast, it's windy. As an angler, you come here and think, this would be good today. That's when you can be really positive. There you go, look at that. $14 hooks for me. I think 14's a great size. Do I fight well, but to be fair to them. So I'm going to put another handful of corn in now. These will mop it up like a vacuum cleaner. They are superb condition. Just put another bit in. And if you wanted to, you could introduce some hemp with it if you wanted. I just wanted to stick with corn today because I know it's such a good bait. So a nice big amount of corn, probably a quarter of a pot. One of them, look at that, them chunky lovely bits of corn like that. You'll always see me when I do films, I'm like that. I get the corn, same with me casters, and I'm always looking for that sort of perfect little chunk to go on the hook. I do see anglers, and I've been coaching, and I'm like, what is that you just put on the hook? It's like the horriblest part of like the kernel that you've ever seen. And I think it does make a difference. And what we'll be trying to do is if I can catch possibly 4, look for your, like, what I do is look for information. So if I went out there and I caught like 4 skimmers or 4 bream, it might change during the day and I started catching a few roach. That might give you the information to actually pick up your big pot and feed again. And obviously if I go in and it's not happening, then just cut your bait down a little bit. So I'm trying to get all that information as I'm going along. No matter what venue or what I'm doing, find that information out. But one thing I will tell you is when you go to a venue and it's fizzing, sometimes you've got to feed more to actually catch the fish that are in your peg. That might sound absolutely crazy. I'll go into a lot of venues now where it fizzes really badly, and sometimes you've got to be more positive to actually create a bite. And that is the hardest part about fishing nowadays on silty bottoms, is when it is fizzing. And I struggle, you know, we all struggle with it. It's not just you guys, it's me as well. I go to venues where it is really hard sometimes, even silverfish fishing. And a classic example is I've been fishing a silverfish match recently, and unless I fed more, I wouldn't catch anything. It's absolutely crazy. So just bear that in mind. If you do go to a venue and it's really silty and it's fizzing, you might have to attack it to actually catch the fish. So obviously I've had one little indication since I fed then. That might have been a little indication, I'm not too sure. Just hold it just above, just to the right of where I fed. You never know what's coming in your peg. That's what's so great about fishing a big lake like Larford. You don't know what's coming in your peg next. You don't know what the next bite's going to be. That wind's getting proper nasty now. Whoa, look at that. Good bite, that. I had a couple of little fish bites. The wind's got really nasty, and I've just hooked, I think, my first carp. He is not happy, and that's why you've got to have the sections out ready. All your sections. That is not a happy chappy carp, that. And that's why you can't fish too light. Obviously different venues. And the sun's just broke through and the wind's gone absolutely mad. It's just gone a little bit quiet, and I just thought, I wonder. And it flew under. I'm going to take my time, make sure it goes in the net. Don't know how big it is. You never know on these big lakes. They fight absolutely. I would have thought there was, with this wind on it today, it would have freshened everything up. And they probably will fight absolutely mad. So I'm going to take a couple of sections off. I'm not going to take too many off, just in case it runs again. And I would have thought this would be the changing point now, where you can go from getting the odd skimmer, the odd bream, and then these boys come in and it's game on. I love this sort of fishing on big lakes. I think it's absolutely brilliant when you can catch carp. Some days you can catch them early, some days it might be right at the end, but when you do catch, feels like quite a nice fish actually. I'm not bothered, it's just nice to actually keep it all nice and simple. I've probably fed like 2 tins. Ooh, it's just gone, line's just gone around his back there. That 17's lovely. It does let them run a little bit. Probably a common, I would have thought, the way that steamed off. You never know. Nice big net as well. You can't mess about with little landing nets on venues like this. 18-inch absolute minimum. Oh yeah, beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Get in there. Oh, double figures, I would have thought. Oh, maybe a tad bigger. I'm going to try and hold him up because he's an absolute Larford stunner, that. So like I said, when these babies rock up, imagine you're match fishing, you can go from catching bream. I will try and hold him up. He is not at all happy about the situation. And I'm going to put him straight back because I'm putting the bream in the net and putting the carp back. And there you go. Proof of the pudding. Get on that sweet corn, keep it nice and simple. Simple rig, simple bait, feed plenty of it, And when these babies start walking up, you can absolutely empty it. Let's get him back.